Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for Lapis Manalis. This is the new MSQ dungeon made available by patch 6.3 in Final Fantasy XIV, God's Revel, Lands Tremble. I'll be honest, at first impression I found this dungeon cold and uninviting, but then I set my sights on embracing it with all my soul and now it's tied with one of my favorite dungeons. My name is Miztech and I'll be your dungeon guide. This first set of trash has you fighting on top of a giant snowmobile. Don't forget to dodge AoE attacks as you burn everything down and enjoy the sights. The first boss is Albion. Throughout the encounter, the boss will leap into the center and cast Call of the Mountain. Players will need to closely look at the tree lines on either side of the arena for this rumbling snow effect. A massive stampede of animals will come out of this area and run across the arena, dealing damage and debuffing anyone hit. All players will need to move out of the way as soon as they identify the danger lane. Albion's Embrace will target the primary target for a heavy-hitting tank buster, cooldown and heal as necessary. Left or right slam will target the side of the boss for a half-room cleave. Players will need to move to the opposite side indicated by the cast bar to avoid getting hit. Knock on Ice will form large ice boulders around the arena indicated by the circle markers. The boss will then target one of them and cast Icebreaker, destroying it with a wide circle attack. He'll then throw up the remnants of this boulder towards each player, targeting the ground underneath them at the time. At the same time, more AoE circles will appear on the platform, spread to avoid overlap while also avoiding the circles on the ground. The boss will then leap into the center and begin to cast Roar of Albion. All players must run behind the remaining ice boulders to avoid getting hit by the room-wide blast. This blast will destroy the remaining boulders and all mechanics will repeat here until the boss is down. Another 2 rounds of trash to get through before you reach the second boss. Watch your feet for those AoE attacks and try not to get distracted by all of the lore notes scattered around. The second boss is Galatea Magna. Waxing Cycle is a 2-part attack that begins with a point-blank circle AoE. Move away from the boss to avoid getting hit. Immediately after, move back in close to the boss to avoid the second part of the attack, a room-wide donut attack. Getting hit by this will apply a 15-second bleed debuff, so healers beware. Soul Scythe will have the boss facing a random direction and casting a large circle attack. Move away from this as necessary. Soul Nebula will deal group-wide damage. 2 numbered void gates will appear and the boss will begin to cast Scarecrow Chase. The diagonal arrow indicators show the direction of her incoming attack. The boss will teleport to the first void gate and cast her attack in the same orientation, before teleporting to the second void gate and casting it again. Players will have to adjust to each void gate to avoid getting hit. Getting hit by this attack will place a doom debuff that must be removed with a Suna or the player will die at the end of the duration. Healers be ready. Tenebrism will afflict all players with a gaze attack that will resolve after about 14 seconds. At the same time, 4 soak circles will appear around the platform in sequence. Each circle must be soaked by at least 1 player or it will explode for high damage. As the final soak circle is resolving, the gaze attacks will go off from each player. All players must look away from one another to avoid getting petrified for 10 seconds. Waning Cycle is another 2 set of AoE attacks, but this time the donut attack goes off first, followed by the point blank circle. Dodge as necessary. During the next Soul Nebula phase, 4 void gates will appear and players will have to dodge the diagonal attacks from each one appropriately as the boss teleports to them in numerical order. The attacks are wider than they look, so play it safe and be ready to Asuna any dooms from party members that do get hit. All of these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. Another 2 sets of trash before you reach the final boss. Stygian Deluge will deal high raid-wide damage and cover the outer edge of the arena with water that debuffs anyone in it. Shield and heal and avoid the outer edge as necessary. Antediluvian will cause 2 sets of bubbles to form over the arena. Players will need to move away from the first set of bubbles to form as they will soon explode in very wide circle attacks. Once these attacks go off, players can readjust to avoid the second set of bubbles. At the same time, the boss will cast Body Slam, dealing damage and knocking back all players from the center. I recommend using your knockback immunity during this time to avoid getting punted into the water or underneath one of the exploding puddles. Healers be ready to heal anyone that gets debuff from the outer edges during this time. The boss will jump to an edge and begin to cast Hydraulic Ram, pathing out his attack trajectory indicated by the line and circle telegraphs that will appear across the platform during the cast. Players should find a spot that is free from any incoming attacks and stand there until the boss finishes rushing around to minimize damage and debuffs. Hydrofall will target a player for stack up. Stand together to share the incoming damage. Cursed Tide will target 3 players with Neep Tide debuffs that last 16 seconds, and 1 player with Spring Tide that will last 28 seconds. At the end of their duration, the players with Neep Tide debuffs will be targeted by circle attacks, spread to avoid overlap. At the same time, 4 spikes will appear on the platform and tether to the boss. These spikes must be destroyed before the boss's gauge reaches 100 or you will die. More circle attacks will target the platform that should also be avoided. Once the Spring Tide debuff timer runs out, that player will be targeted for stack up damage. Stand together to share the incoming damage while you continue to destroy the remaining spikes. Once all spikes are destroyed, the boss will cast his ultimate, shield and heal through this damage. Void Cleaver will form 4 void circles around the platform that will each tether to a player. These void circles will throw out long conal attacks towards their tethered player. Players can bait these towards the outside to minimize impact on the platform. At the same time, the boss will cast Life Cleaver, adding even more cleave attacks over the platform that must be avoided. Watch your feet until the void circles disappear. Void Torrent will target the primary target for a line tank buster. Move away from others and cool down through the damage. All of these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll look at the new normal trial. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.